We can see you, we can hear you. Everything is good.
All right, our meeting is now being live streamed. Hello and welcome to another Sales Chats, the 30-minute rapid fire online chat. And today we are going to talk about body language for business success, which is just an exciting topic, one which I think is much overlooked often. So, if you want to follow us and you want to actually engage and join in the conversation, then please do so on Twitter, like hashtag sales chats. That's hashtag sales chats. And as I said, today our topic is body language for business success. And I'm delighted to welcome Catherine Molloy, who is all the way in the future. How are you doing, Catherine?
Hi, how are you? Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, Catherine's joining us from tomorrow because she is in Australia right now, so which is fantastic. And Catherine is an international speaker and communications expert specializing in leadership, sales and service. And of course, hosting our Twitter chat is Martha in Vienna. How are you doing, Martha?
Hi, thanks, I'm fine. Thank you.
Good, good. So as I said, I encourage you really join in on the Twitter chat, hashtag sales chat. Put in your observations, your questions, all of that good stuff, and you can actually be involved in the whole process yourself. All right. So, Catherine, thank you for joining us from the future, as I said. Let's just get right into it. So, body language and business. I mean, I think it's something that people will go, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how important that really is. You tell us why it is actually really important.
Yes, well, that first impression, we make that just in 7 seconds. We want to create more win-wins in our life. The first person we influence every day is ourselves. So it's really interesting because we've got the power of 700,000 different movements. It's a lot of power. And how we use our facial expressions makes a very big difference. So if we want to meet our clients and welcome our clients, I think we all know great eye contact, that smile. But one of the big things I think the world has showed us today what not to do was they were telling everyone, whatever you do through COVID, don't touch your face. And the whole time they were touching their face as they're telling you not to. So your body language can actually really enhance whether you're going to be authentic in your deals or whether you're a little bit confused about what you're telling someone.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and you're right. It's funny how we were told not to do different things and all of that, and so it is amazing that. And especially when you think about it, Catherine, when you get on Zoom and you get virtual and stuff like that, people suddenly think, I just sit rigidly, right? I just sit rigidly and I don't use, body language doesn't count in virtual, right? So I don't use my hands. I just sit here rigidly looking like in a hostage video.
Very true. The other thing, though, is we've got to be careful not to use our body movements as fast virtually.
Yeah.
Because if we're moving fast, a lot of the speed and lag. So we still want to be using our body, but just a little differently. And virtual, I always get my clients to put a little smiley dot up where their camera is so that they can keep looking up, but also having that smile. And, it's interesting because when you're presenting, it's important just to have that little bit of that chin up, but not so high that you're looking down at people. And same with our camera. I think it's important that we're just looking up a little because, when you never see someone who lose and go, oh, yay, it's always up. So it also helps expand where we breathe. And of course, breathing's a very important part of business and the way that we connect with people. If we're all out of breath, it can put somebody else on edge. What's happening with this person? If we talk too slowly, once again, we lose the people that we're speaking with.
No, absolutely. And I love what you just said there about looking at the camera because it is very, very easy to start to get distracted and to be looking around and to be like, oh, look, my phone's buzzing or whatever. So it is very easy to get distracted when you are online. So you have to introduce a certain level of discipline.
Totally. I totally agree. And of course, there'll be times when you are also interacting with a lot of audience, and then you'll go, okay, I can see you. But then you want to come back to them when you're directing that point of speaking straight to your customer, your client, your team member.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what are some of the common mistakes that people make with body language in business?
I truly believe people forget that their little micro expressions that they do start to confuse people. So let me give you an example. If a team member came and handed me a spreadsheet, for instance, and something was missing on it, and I went like this, and then I go, oh, that's fine, and they walked away, they're not going to feel so great. They'll know something's wrong. And I might have put my hand to my face because I was like, oh, I just saw that I missed out a column or a column's missing. And then I've told them it's okay, but now they're confused. You see, with body language, we react in 1/25th of a second before we speak. And that's why there's so much miscommunication really in our body language when we're talking to people, because we react because we're thinking of something and then we say something else. But in between that, the person doesn't know that we've already noticed something's wrong, already decided how we're going to fix it, and then let them go. We also need to use our words with our body language, because otherwise it's very subjective and we're letting people decide what we're saying.
Yeah, I love that thing about micro expressions, because that's definitely something, that we all do. And it is, you can misinterpret very quickly. And as you said, if you don't accompany it with words, and it's just, or you accompany with, as you said just earlier, with words that don't match what you're saying, your words that don't match what you're doing or your expression or anything, then you're obviously confusing the other person. And humans being humans, we're going to immediately take a negative interpretation of it.
Yes, interesting, isn't it? It's rarely ever that positive part that we'll look at and take. I'd love to share this with you and your audience just really quickly. I was in the car with my husband because he drives me or picks me up from the airport and takes me to conferences. And so I'm in the car, my husband's driving, I'm sitting beside him, and usually, we'll sing or we'll chat. We'll do a catch up because I've been away. But this morning we're heading down to Brisbane, one of our capital cities. We were in the middle lane on the road. There's a lane beside us on each side. And I said to him, I've got to get some emails done before I get to the conference. So I pulled out my phone, and he said, yep, no worries, and I sit back and I'm on my phone doing emails. But the next minute I felt this heat down my arm. Now, we've all got peripheral vision, haven't we? We can tell if someone's going to be turning their head. So my husband was turning his head, and I quickly leant back so he could see to change lanes. But in that 1/25th of a second of me leaning back, I felt that heat down my arm, and I looked at my husband and I said, what's wrong? And he was driving, and he looked at me and he said, you don't have to stiffen up. When I'm driving, there's nothing wrong with my driving. And I looked at him and I said, sorry, I just leant back so that you could change lanes. And this is what he said. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, though. It's a great example.
Yeah, and that was the end of the conversation. Now, neither of us had spoken, but my husband was really mad at me. Now, I had the right to be mad at him for up to 2 days because of him yelling at me for something I didn't do. But the interesting thing was, this was my fault, because I leant back. I made up a story for him in 1/25th of a second that he needed to change lanes. And in that same split second, he made up a story for me that I was stiffening up. Now, we've been married 30 years. So maybe I've stiffened up a few times. He's backed into nearly every car we've ever owned from one of the other cars. So there's probably been times I've stiffened up. But the thing that's interesting, like you're saying, the way the brain works, he felt he was in the right this time. He was going straight. There was no reason for me to stiffen up. So you can see, if I hadn't used my language, I would never have found out what the story was that was going on in his head.
Yeah, you see, that's such an interesting concept, because a lot of then the body language, I would say, and I'm just asking this question, is we, especially with people we know, we associate things with it going back over time, and maybe we're holding on to things, maybe we're interpreting things in a particular way, and we need to kind of reorient our thinking.
Absolutely. Every conversation we need to start from scratch with that person. And if we start to make up a story for them, maybe we need to ask, oh, why have you leant back? He could have asked me. However, if I use my words with my actions as I leant back, because we react before we speak, and so I'm always making and checking in. But, like you said, with people so well, I just quickly leant back. Great intention. He can now see the road. But once I did that movement, I should have said, do you need to change lanes? And none of that would have happened. And that's why it's so sad when you see, best friends no longer speaking. And most of it has come from stories that they've made up for the other person.
Yeah, it is. It is so true, because we're fantastic at creating what we think the situation is, or interpreting what we think the person meant, as opposed to actually having that conversation with them. But it's really interesting. It is. We do this all the time. If you think about it in your reaction, it's like when my wife says to me, "What do you think of this outfit?" And I'm in another world, and I look up and I don't react immediately, and then I go, "Oh yes, I like that." So what's wrong with it? And immediately she's saying that, because my first reaction was like slight confusion, because I was coming out of another thought. And I think these are the things that we have to watch out for.
And these are, and you could easily say at that time when you've had a moment too long, "I'm sorry, what did you say? I was just thinking about blah, blah, blah." And it saves all that miscommunication. I truly believe we need to use our words with our actions.
Yeah, that's a good point. It would save me having to look at 5 more outfits, I guess. So, which is always good. So another interesting thing is Catherine. So when you in business, you meet for the first time. Okay, we talked about virtual, but when you meet for the first time in person, what are some of the key things that you should remember to make that fantastic first impression?
Well, I am the author of The $1 Million Handshake, and I believe Amazon has just done a promotion of it in America at the moment. It was Business Book of the Year in UK. So I am very big on the handshakes, and what's happening in Australia, even through COVID, people couldn't stop shaking hands. So as long as you use that hand gel, it's a good thing. But most importantly, just remember, don't touch men. Just kidding. That's the mouth, eyes, and nose.
I try not to.
So whether you are virtual or face-to-face, a lot of these things are still the same. And what happens is people start to talk and they cover their mouth. Now, they could cover their mouth for lots of reasons. It could be because they don't like their teeth, they don't like their smile, they've got coffee breath, they're keeping some words in. Maybe there's some things that that they're thinking that's making them cover their mouth at that time. So there's lots of different reasons that we do it. But what's important is keeping yourself open. Those first 7 seconds face to face is really important. Making sure that you are connecting with that person, not looking over there. Oh, that's the person I want to meet. I don't really want to meet you. You don't know who that person knows. And my biggest deals around the world have come from somebody that hasn't been able to actually use me at the conference, but they've recommended me.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting one because that's the one that always kind of gets me a little bit is when somebody speaks to you and they're speaking to you like this and they're looking at you, but then they're, as you said, they're glancing over your shoulder, and immediately it's communicating to me saying, okay, I'm, as you said, I'm not the person you really want to talk to. You want out of this conversation, and that may not be the case, but that's my interpretation of it because you're not focused on me.
Correct. And people that love to cross their arms, for instance, because they're
Yeah.
very comfortable. Or maybe they've said something that they really like and no one else needs to say anything. Or perhaps they're cold. Or maybe they don't know what to do with their arms. Or, perhaps it's their security because it gives them a nice hug while they're talking. Making sure that we are uncrossed. And they say that when we cross our arms, that we can block up to 30% of information coming through. Now, we're not the best in the world, thanks to, the social scientists are telling us, our smartphones, our attention span is so small now, it's less than a goldfish's. So we really need to do everything we can to focus on that person that we're meeting and that we're talking to. And if we do want to see someone else, then we might be able to say, look, I'm so sorry, just explain that you need to be able to go over the next couple of minutes, but you'd love to come back and chat. So it's important that people do not know what is going on in your head. And the stories you make up for the person in front of you, what you think isn't always right. We need to use our language. And, we've just finished writing the book, The Conscious Leader. It's an Amazon bestseller. And the thing about it is we need to be really conscious of ourselves, but conscious of our actions and our thoughts, and make sure that we're using the language that connects it all together.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think that the folding arm ones is a great one. I actually had to teach myself not to do that because, as you said, it was just a natural kind of comfortable thing. It wasn't a closed off thing. But I had to teach every time I feel my arms going like that, kind of starting to go like this. I pull them away and go back to an open stance. But again, you're right. Is you can't rely on one or the other. I mean, you have to use your words, as we tell our children all the time. Use your words. We have to use our words too.
Absolutely. It's part of the human condition, and communication is still the number one biggest problem on the planet today. You can see leaders go to war because of miscommunication. And so it's so important that we use this language. And, for salespeople, I see them all the time, whether they're selling online or they're talking to you about their product, and they're saying, this is really great. And you're kind of sitting there thinking, maybe it's not, because when we touch our nose, there's something we're a little frustrated about. So I usually get a lot of my salespeople, I will film them while they're talking to me about their product or service. And then I can start to have a look at when they're doing things like this, why all of a sudden do they get that itchy nose? Now, we know if someone touches their nose could be running, it might be really cold, perhaps they've got a flu, maybe they've smelled something they didn't like. But it's interesting when you're talking to somebody and you're going, this product's great and you can do this and this with it. And they touch their nose. I know there's some frustration. Something is making them feel uncomfortable at that point. And I'll ask them what's going on. Oh, yeah, I'm not quite sure of this or that, or, if it really has a 30-day guarantee, or maybe it's only 7. And so I get them to dig deeper. Now, I want you to use your body language to be authentic. So if I'm telling you don't touch your face so that you can sell anything, that's not the idea. The idea is to find out where you're uncomfortable, or maybe there's something you need to know, or perhaps your product really isn't as good as you're saying it is. So what can you do to make it that good?
Yeah, I think that's a great point again, because I think it's so if we pay attention to those little things, then we can discover what it is maybe subconsciously we're either avoiding or trying to say. I also come back just for a moment. You mentioned about the goldfish. I read that a while back about us having less attention span than a goldfish. And now if you look at how we text, we use emojis. Like, so we've gone to hieroglyphics again. So I think we've gone complete de-evolution. Now we don't we communicate with pictures, and we have no attention span whatsoever. So I think these are the things that you have to actually pay attention to, the fact that we have so many distractions and we're used to being distracted. And it's very easy for us, like if I'm talking to you and my phone buzzes with a message, it's very easy for me suddenly to glance down at it. I've now broken our connection.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? In that split second of looking down, you might look straight back up, but you've actually broken that connection.
Yeah, and I think these are the things that people need to be really aware of. So, Catherine, part of the problem I think with body language and all of that, it's a lot of it comes down to, are you present? Are you actually present to begin with? Are you present, focused, and intentional?
Look, I totally agree. To create win-wins, we want to create likability. So, for instance, if someone meets you, they may do all the talking, being curious and finding out about someone's important. When they walk away, how have you made that person feel? And I think that's one of the big things around body language. It's really about, first of all, empowering yourself, having that, that great feeling, that influence. When we smile, we use nearly every muscle in our face. And that's why they tell pilots to smile, because it keeps you awake. So if you're feeling tired, and let's not talk about tired, right? I've had 4 events this week. I've got one that I need to drive to at 6:30 a.m. this morning, and I'm sitting here at 3 a.m. But people, in the old days, I used to do a lot of traveling. I could have been 36 hours on a plane and then speak the next day. And you'll be walking in and you'll see people lining up, and someone might be yawning in the line. And I'm thinking, they don't know what tired is. We can change and alter our state so quickly through our body language. If you're feeling tired, sit up, put those shoulders back. If you're listening, pop your feet on the ground. If you've got to go into something, jump up and down. When I was in Africa, all the women would come up and they'd sing and they'd be bouncing. And the energy that it gives you is quite incredible. So we can all say, gee, I'm tired. I've worked so hard. I've been up for 20 hours. But is that the message that you want to convey? And will that create likability with the person you're speaking to?
No, not at all. Not at all. That's like, yeah, great, wonderful. So you're tired, you traveled here, but that was your choice. So why are you telling me? Exactly. There is a question here. Somebody asked is, how do you bridge the gaps with your listeners non-verbally?
Okay. So that's interesting, because sometimes we're listening to podcasts and different things like that. So being clear with our message, but also using our pace, our pitch, our breath to what we're saying. We've all heard people talk monotone and slow, and you just have to turn it off, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You do. I think it's and that's one of the hardest things. And I think this is there are simple remedies to all of this. It's the same as like how you appear virtually, how you appear on screen is record and look at yourself. And I know people hate doing that. I remember, unfortunately I'm old enough to remember tape recorders back in the old days, cassettes. First time you recorded your voice on a cassette and played it back, you went, oh my God, this thing sucks. That's not me. And everybody else is going, no, it actually is. So I think you got to get over that and actually look at yourself and listen to yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. That really took me back to I was about 16 and I heard my voice for the first time, and I really nearly stopped talking. So it is quite a shock when you hear yourself for the first time, I think, because I think we sound so much different to what we actually do, to what our tone is. But we've got to appreciate every single thing that we do. And so even if you don't like it, it's yours. There are things that you can do about it. And I created this conscious connection framework. And I think these 3 things go together so well. Being really mindful, being conscious of who you're speaking to. So even if they can't see you, what is the information that they need? You know, is it going to be something that's going to bring them on the journey with you? Is it exciting? And more importantly, are you passionate about it? Is that coming through in your voice? And I think that's one of the most exciting things when we get to meet someone, is to be able to share our passions, listen to theirs, ask them questions. And when someone can't see you and it is just that recording, it does come down to our pitch, our voice, our volume, our tone, our breathing. So I hope that I'm coming across exciting today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I love that piece because you should figure out how you sound and all of that. But the thing is about the enthusiasm, I think that's one of the most critical pieces, because if you're talking to me, particularly if you're in sales, if you're talking to me and I don't feel the enthusiasm and I don't feel the belief and passion for the product you're selling, and it doesn't even matter what that product or service is. For instance, I have to get all my palm trees cut back. You know, they need to be pruned and stuff now. And the guy came the other day from the tree company, and he's a certified arborist, and he was just telling me about his love for trees. And suddenly, what should have been like, you know, 10 minutes of going, yes, this amount of trees and this is how much it's going to cost, is we're talking trees. And now I have a tree guy that I'm going to use going forward because he loves trees.
Yeah, it's just beautiful when you hear that person's passion. So being really conscious, you know, of the people and having those conversations can lead to quite amazing moments in life. And then understanding that what we think isn't always right is important. So making sure that our body language is matching what we're saying, because just remember, if you make up stories for other people, guess what? They're making up stories for you. So just remember that as well, being mindful and being conscious of our body language. You know, if people can hear our voice but not see us, you know, stand up so that you're breathing and you've let your lungs be able to expand. But I think the three things for me, where it's not just body language, it's our mindset, our body language, and our behaviors. When we put those three things together, we really start to create a level playing field where we can create more win-wins for ourselves and for the people that we're working with, that we're serving, our customers, and grow our business.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I always advise people, I always did this myself, if ever doing job interviews, is always be standing. And if it's, you know, on cell phone, like even you can move around slightly, because it keeps the energy and interest going and doesn't allow you to, you know, to start to go flat. Catherine, in the last couple of moments here, what we always like to ask people is, what's your power tip? I mean, how do you, Catherine, set yourself up for success every day?
Great question. It was really funny. I was thinking this morning, here I am at 2:30 popping on a bit of makeup. Men are so lucky. They can jump out, shake their hair a little bit, you know, might need a quick little shave. I don't know, but it's really interesting being a woman. You know, we do put on our makeup and we do put on our clothes to match what we're doing and how we're feeling. And I think that's probably one of the big things in life. You know, if you don't feel comfortable in something, don't wear it. Don't buy it. If when you put it on, you've got to go, I'm not too sure, don't grab it. I think one of the things that help us feel great, apart from having a positive mindset, you know, we are going to have thoughts that come through our mind that perhaps aren't always the best. And so when they come through, you know, you can acknowledge that thought, but let it go. And then you can replace it with something so much better. So, you know, for myself, to get myself in state is I'm naturally a positive person, and I know that can drive other people crazy. So I have to be careful how I use it. But internally, we need to use it for ourselves, you know, and if you are feeling tired, you know, like I said, bounce up and down, look at that ceiling, shake those hands about, you know, winners look up, and you are going to feel differently. And if things aren't working for you, just check your body. Are you leaning on one leg? Is your head tilted to the side? We can change the way we feel. Do I look more confident when my head's straight when I'm talking to you, when I've just met you, or when I'm like this. And a lot of women love to tilt. And I understand that we're, showing our ear. So we're letting people see our ear. So we're listening. But when we first meet, we can be straight and we can be confident. And then as they're telling us stories, we might do that little bit of a lean and show our ear, but we don't need to.
Right. No, that's great. Great piece of advice. Listen, Catherine, this has been fantastic. Before we go, please do tell people a little bit about what you do.
Oh, okay, great. So I am a speaker. I'm a certified speaking professional. There's around 15% of us in the world that are actual professional speakers. And I love sharing body language, behaviors, mindset. I wrote the book, The $1 Million Handshake, back in 2018. It did become an international bestseller and business book of the year in the UK. For Orion Books, 7 Dials, and it's made its way around in different languages. And this is the new book, which you can't see too well right now. It's The Conscious Leader. And I truly believe for this decade, I've worked with thousands of leaders around the world. And, what we've discovered is the leaders that are more present. I always say your presence in the present matters. And I love language for leadership. So we take you on a journey through who you are, what your natural leadership style is, all the different leadership styles that you've heard about, and what tools would you love, to build your own toolkit. One leadership style isn't the best leadership style. So, being that situational leader to what project is coming up, to what the people are that you're managing through that time is really important. And I think we've seen that around the world through COVID, the leaders that can adjust their style for the people. But if they kept that style for every situation, it wouldn't work. So our emotionally intelligent leaders, the second chapter is all around SEALs, the conscious, emotional, intelligent leaders that we're creating in the world. And we lead you on a journey through language for leadership, one of my favorites, into leading others. And last but not least is our conscious currency. What are you transferring in the world? What do you want to be known for? Pretty excited about that. And we got an Amazon bestseller in a few categories as well.
That's fantastic. Listen, thank you again, Catherine. And thanks, Martha. Good Twitter chat today.
Yes, it was great. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you again, Catherine. And thank you all for watching and listening. And those of you who are going to watch the recording, thank you. And we'll see you for another sales chat really soon.